we had collected a little bit of money, so we handed him like, whatever, $300, $700 or something like that. And he said, "Oh, thank you. This is really excellent work." And I was going, "What?" First of all, we've raised thousands and thousands of dollars. We don't write it down. We don't put a note on it, And we've also spent, months and months living on the road, doing all this work. And I found it interesting that the organization recognized the cash contribution. I didn't hold it against anybody. And today it remains true with most religious organizations that if you want to get noticed, not that we want to get noticed, but if you want the recognition, which we don't need, but does reinforce a certain kind of part of our nature, it seems to be attached to monetary things, which is really weird. And like what you and I did, I don't think anybody knew that, basically the two of us, and I'm trying to remember the carpenters' names, but, I remember Joan Apter, she was the carpenter, and I remember the medical staff. I remember you, me, and a half a dozen carpenters, and a couple other crazies that knew how to do stuff. And, we didn't need anything except what needed to be done. And we did it. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that stayed with me all my life. And in the end, I wound up, I got married, I got divorced, I had to get back up on my feet. I wound up getting a job and walking the streets and getting work and finally making a little bit of money, enough to survive on, and then building a business, struggling with that, and then probably, 15 or 20 years later, selling that business for about $20 million. I had no money, and then, 10 or 15 years later, I had sold this company very successfully. And the best part of that was I was able to raise two boys who are now all grown up, and that's been the best part of my life. And then I'm very grateful, and then I try to teach my boys what you and I have learned, and I'm trying to do it without any religion. Okay, I don't want there, because religion is taboo. I mean, if you want to lose their interest and if you want to lose their attention. So what I try to find ways of conveying call it the magic of what you and I experienced. The closest thing I can find is music, and then my boys like to snowboard, and I sort of resisted snowboarding as sort of trivial and kind of vacation like, but they are in the zone when they are snowboarding and skateboarding. So I encourage that. I want them to have the more connected and perhaps profound experience of knowing how to go deeper within and all that. But again, the minute you start talking like that, you lose your audience. And you and I both know how to hold people's attention. We know how to stand in front of a group of people and talk to them about, satsang or whatever you want to call it. But, these days I just try to live my life, and I haven't forgotten anything. In fact, I remember my entire life now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very grateful for that experience, because it reinforces me on a daily basis. Every aspect of my life has been reinforced by, for lack of a better word, meditation. Okay, the meditation is sort of the practical aspect, and the devotion is the spiritual aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even when I'm dealing with, there's a lot of people as we mentioned before, there are a lot of people in yoga, there are a lot of people doing kirtan, there are a lot of people chanting, it's freaking everywhere, right? It's like, it's like yoga's the new vacation. It's like a fashion. It's like what do we call it up here? We call it spiritual tourism. Okay, you can be spiritual for a weekend or a week or even a month. And you wear the outfits, you burn the incense, you chant the chants, you do all that stuff, and then you go home and be an ordinary chipmunk.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that, but the trick is, how do you get it in your everyday life? And we had it drilled into our heads about service, which is what you and I were, where you and I bonded, because you and I got that together at the same time, and we were unstoppable. I remember that clearly. That we didn't stop, and everything got done. It was fantastic. And to this day, I have that inside me, and I've had a brain surgery, I've had liver transplant, I've had several other things, survived cancer, and all of that is from digging deep into the inner resources and pulling strength from that. And it's again, it's a little bit emotional, but it's a very powerful experience. And I hope that that can continue. I don't know if it can continue in the form that it was before, where it was like, oh, here's a guru, and here's a mission, and here's a temple, and here's a mantra. I think it needs a little bit more contemporary integration into our culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And unfortunately, our culture is heading completely in the other direction, starting with the leadership and moving all the way down to social media. We're sort of on a knee-jerk basis with reality, and
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know what I'm working as hard as I can. I talked to a monk the other day, and I said, "Gee, it's rough." And he said, "Well, you have to focus on your service." And then I'm a painter. That's what I studied in Princeton, and that's I studied architecture, and I studied painting and art history. So that's what I know. That's what I'm expert at. Okay, I can do other things, but that's what I'm expert at. And then he said, "Well, maybe you should give up painting." And then I went, "Oh, wait a minute. Here I am with a monk. The monk is telling me to give up painting. I've done that once before. I gave everything up for the divine light mission." Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and became whatever they needed me to be. But again, I wasn't appreciated for that, because that's not who I am.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And that doesn't mean I didn't help. It doesn't mean I didn't get something out of it. I mean, I got a ton out of it. I mean, it's probably the first or second most important thing that ever happened in my life. Competing with getting born and getting married, and having children. It's right up there, So, but how do you work it into everyday life, Richard? That's the trick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and for me, I guess I take that experience day by day and just take baby steps. You take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and just for me, I think I personally, I monitor every single actions that I take. In terms, if someone is going to make me angry, the only thing that I realize, as Buddha said, if you get angry, you're drinking your own poison. So basically, and scientists have even proven that, that in the last 15 years, there's so many scientific discoveries on that. And so I, basically, moment by moment, here's a story. I heard maybe 30 years ago that the Dalai Lama, he monitors, every single night when he goes to bed, he takes a look at his actions and how to improve. And when I heard that, to be honest, I didn't truly comprehend that until about 10 years ago. Then I took, this is what, because you monitor your actions to make yourself a better human being, So you prepare yourself because the obstacles will come your way. You know, nobody gets a free ride, right? Nobody gets a free ride. It's all an incredible journey. And for me, you know, for the piece of the puzzle for myself, I I see it is that I want to be a complete piece of that puzzle. I want to be a human being. I want to be a being that has love, kindness for everyone in my life, irrespectively of where I go. I can go in the grocery store. You know, people know me. You know, I smile. I'm friendly. I'm interested in their life because we're all connected. And so,
Yeah, we are all human beings.
yeah. So that is where I'm coming from, is to by discovering my inner nature, it makes my life so much more easier. You know, and I can see when my friends, you know, flame, I'll put gasoline on the fire in Facebook. I'm simply gonna come back with kindness, you know, compassion. Just kind of remind people this is our true nature. You know, we're not an angry race, but it may seem that way, but that's not our true nature.
Well, also, I think we were educated to think that animals were beasts and animals were angry and animals were this, that, and the other thing. And of course, if you spend any time with animals, I mean, you might argue that animals can't be compassionate. I've never seen anything but a compassionate animal. That's all they do. And
Yeah.
you know, and when it's time to eat, they go eat, and they do that in the most compassionate way possible, which is they pick off the ones that aren't going to make it, and they kill them and devour them quickly. You know, there are not too many animals that just play. You know, I think the cat is the only animal that plays with its food before it kills it. You know, but you know, these animals are not angry. They do things out of nature, necessity, and I agree with you. If you let anger be a real thing, separate from yourself, I had trouble with anger because of certain marital things, which were pretty horrible. I mean, actually, very horrible. And I said to the head nun, there were two head nuns, one after the other, and I got to be friendly with them. And I said to the first one, you know, I still get angry. And she turned to me and she said, that's good. I wasn't ready for that, Richard. She said, that's good. And I looked at her like she was crazy or I was crazy. She said, it's good to be angry. And then she said, see those clouds? Look at them. They appear and they disappear. And that's all she said. That was it.
Oh, wow.
Right? So that took about a year to settle in. And then the second head nun came. And I said to her, you know, I've gotten pretty good with this anger thing. You know, it's like practically gone in my life. And I'm surprised that still it occurs. And she says, it will always occur. So what I want you to do is I want you to be happy angry. And at this point, I was still very much in the work world, which if you didn't, unless you've been retired all your life, you know exactly what I mean about the work world.
Yeah.
So the work world has its, you know, its own rules. And you know, some people in the work world can treat things as though there's nothing but work and money, et cetera, et cetera. And so I came with this second piece of wisdom, which was, okay, be happy angry. So I would be in the middle of an argument or a discussion, and let's just say the other person was being wrong. Okay, it could have been me that was wrong. It doesn't matter. Somebody was wrong. So my ire would get up and I'd be angry. And then that person came into my mind, that consciousness came into my mind to be happy. So I would get happy at the same time that I was angry. And now I know that sounds like a complete and utter contradiction, but it wasn't. And it worked. And it freak freak the shit out of everybody. Because here's this guy is completely angry and he's happy at the same time. And you know, which brings me to my conclusion on spiritualism, is that, you know, basically if you accept, what do you call it, Ganesh or Ganapati, but if you accept sort of the remover of obstacles as part of what's present in the universe, your life really opens up. And for me, that all began when you and I knew each other many, many years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I have a twin brother named John, you know, and you know, he received knowledge years ago. But as a kid, let's say when I would get angry, he would laugh at me, and then I would get angrier, and get this, over just a matter of 5 minutes,
Yeah.
he would laugh, I would get angry, and then at a certain point, I would start laughing, and the anger just totally disappeared. You know, I saw
really?
how ridiculous it was for me to get angry in the first place. So laughter, you know, being happy, I think it allows us to have discrimination, to see that what's the point of getting angry about it? You know, someone has a different, you know, unique point of view, and that's how it is, right? Our society would be a lot better place if we can truly listen to one another, you know, and try to be in the other person's shoes, and to see, okay, well, we may not, you know, agree on this, but at least, you know, we can still be friends and talk, you know, with wisdom, and we can have harmony with one another, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to do that, and every once in a while I run into somebody, and I've tried to do it with my family, and I've forgiven, forgotten, you know, made peace with it. You know, pretty much everybody in my family. There are a few sort of residual things, but, you know, nothing major. There are only one or two people in my life now that drive me crazy, and I don't really stay crazy for more than a couple of minutes. And then I've tried to make up with the ones that drive me the craziest. I've tried to make up with, and then every once in a while there's somebody who I think was completely unjust in their behavior, unfair and unjust, and that's the sort of seems to be my remaining challenge.
Yeah, that's a hard one, isn't it? I mean,
well, the thing that I do not like about Buddhism is what begins to turn into a certain amount of laissez-faireism, or, you know, they blame it all on karma, which I don't believe in. I don't believe in karma. Okay, we won't get into that discussion, but I don't believe in it any more than I believe in you know, the class system of in India. Okay, I don't believe in karma. Okay, so we won't get into that. But what I'll say is, I think human trafficking is the most tragic and evil activity on the planet. Okay, and it's done nothing but grow. There's more slavery and trafficking than has ever been in the world today. More in the U.S., more throughout the world. And, you know, when everybody says, well, you know, it will be okay, or this is just the dark side of the universe, and you need to have the dark to go with the light, I say bullshit, okay? So I am not at peace with that, nor am I willing to be at peace with it. You know, it's like, no, harming other people, harming innocent people, innocent animals, destroying nature. It's not that they're unforgivable, but they're not acceptable.
Right.
And I know I should be detached and objective, but these things are wrong, and they have to be ended. They have to be stopped. If we don't stop illegal evil stuff, if we don't participate in ending it, then we are complicit in it. And I think that was either Gandhi or somebody like that.
As Martin Luther King.
Thank you, Martin Luther King. So I think probably got it from your posting. If you don't fight it, you're part of it. And so so the anger, I think that's why I think anger is necessary. You should use anger to confront, but then if you're smart and you have this extra point of view, maybe you can get through. Maybe you can get people, but to sit back and go, it's okay, or it'll all work out, or in the end, it all balances out. Fuck the end. I don't want to be around for an end where it all balances out, because right now I've been through suffering. I know what it is, and I've not been through anything like what goes down in the trafficking business. Okay, I have suffered plenty in my life, but it's not even a millionth of what they go through.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the economics of the trafficking business, but a 15-year-old girl or a 14-year-old girl whom you can purchase for $500 one-time money will earn $250,000 or more in the next 10 years, at which point she is disposable and usually is dead at the age of 20, 25. Now, what is more tragic than that? And of course, you show me something, you show me a $500 investment that nets $250,000 in 10 years, and now you know why you can't stop it, okay? Because it's beyond investment. It's like, nothing makes more money. Nothing, not gold, not investments, not robbing banks. Nothing makes that kind of money. Nothing. So how do we end that? And I don't know. And the people who try to end it usually get in all kinds of trouble. And then I thought, okay, when I get to a point where I'm dying, and I got there, I'm going to go buy an M16 and I'm going to sit outside the bar in Thailand and just shoot the guys as they come out the door. And then I realized, okay, here I'm dying. I've got my gun. I got my bullets. I know who they are. I did my research. I'll wait till they come outside and I'll blow their brains away. And then I realized, first of all, I don't want to do that. But then they're going to be replaced immediately.
Right. Yeah.
With the next batch of people who want to continue that thing. So, you can pray, but I don't think prayer is active enough. I think, the one thing I like about Christianity, besides Jesus, is that when I see good Christian organizations, they're outside doing good in the community. They don't just, pray at home or pray in church. They're like, they've got food, shelters, and stuff like that. And we need more of that in our communities. And where I became disenchanted with the mission that you and I kind of grew up in is when it had all the money in the world, and all that money seemed to reside in the holy residence, so to speak. And I was wondering, well, I thought we were here to help each other. And okay, so the Lord of the universe is here and all that. But, there's work to do. And I didn't see, and I still don't see that work getting done. My brother, Michael, is still very close and active. I don't want to say anything negative about him, but I don't see that a whole lot of energy is going outward.
Mm-hmm.
And that has upset me deeply, Richard.
Yeah, now I heard, they now have 648 prison programs. They're helping prisoners. I think that's a a good step in the right direction. And then they have they're serving like food in communities in India and Africa. Yeah,
Well, that's good to hear.
yeah, yeah. Mhm.
But the time period that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I think they call it the eagle's nest. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Completely unnecessary.
correct.
Okay. And then there's all the stories, and I don't even care about all that. The contradiction that I've had to work out in my life is the most beautiful thing that I've received in my life, and the most beautiful experience I had with people like you had this corrupted core, and I still don't know quite what to make of it. And I know that I keep meditating, although I feel a little separated from the. I don't like where the techniques came from. I don't like the source. I'm suspicious of the source, and yet I know the tradition. I know all the gurus and param gurus and so on and so forth. I know all the different kinds of yogas and Raj yoga and you name it. I got the whole picture. I've had plenty of time to study and learn up. And we were given an enormously great gift, and it's interesting that it sort of came in tinfoil wrapper. That's the part that I don't understand.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking.
And I apologize if you're still connected deeply. I apologize because I'm not trying to challenge you or it or anything. I'm just saying you and I had direct experience of the unbelievable magic of it all and the goodness of it all. And I would have liked to have seen that continue to grow in a very productive way. And the problem I have with the Buddhists that I'm dealing with now is they have their Buddhism, and this is a great group, and they do good things, and they have prison programs and other programs and open meditations and so on and so forth. And they're very welcoming to the neighborhood. They had to wrestle a little bit with homosexuality because in that part of the East where they came from, it was taboo. And so anyhow, they almost have worked out how to deal with that issue. But well, I would just like to, but they still have. They're so busy making it sort of zen and perfect. So when you go there, everything is fucking perfect. Schedules are on time. The people are clean. The floors are clean. There's no dust anywhere. The meals are magnificent. Everything is perfect. The walks are raked. The trees are trimmed. The flowers are, blooming. The garden is feeding everybody. It's like perfect. But they don't have a program in town for teenagers who need meditation more than anybody.
yeah, oh yeah, almost definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I finally found a woman who went to my high school. See if I can remember her name. Her name is Whitney. She wrote a book on meditation for kids. And so I just wrote her a little email saying, hey, it's great work that you're doing. I don't know her from Adam, but here's a woman who's not quite my age. And she's actually writing books to teach kids and doing programs to teach kids how to meditate, what meditation is, what it can do for you, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
What else is there to do
Yeah.
on this planet? I'm serious. What else is there to do?
I wrote a book called Dragon Tales for
cool.
kids and teenagers. And what it's about, here's a short synopsis. So you have the West, the dragon. So there was Zoran the dragon. He was brought up in England, and of course, all dragons from England at that time were into hoarding gold, hate, anger, fire, and Zoran was born different. For some reason, he's a happy-go-lucky dragon. He had love, compassion, for all dragons.
Well, you probably invented him.
Yeah. So get this. So he gets kicked out, and so a group of young dragons, they fly to Tibet. So they meditate there for about 1,000, 2,000 years, and they all become enlightened dragons. And then and then they had one day two young children from the village, below in the valley, they stumble into the cave. And then in the cave, they see about 10, 15 dragons, meditating. And then the dragons wake up. And so the kids get so excited, that the dragons, not only did they wake up, but they were super kind, compassionate, loving, full of humor. They made life so amazing that they asked the dragons, will you teach us? And at first, the dragons were kind of set back because in England they had dragon slayers,
Right.
And so, but then the dragons developed so much compassion. They developed a compassion, so that they agreed to teach the children. So anyway, then this is a period of 600 years. It shows that the transformations where eventually this became the city of Shambhala. So and in Shambhala, they accepted all refugees from any wars, around the world, where people learned, how to be a community, and there was harmony, and people learned how to meditate, and they embrace all ethnicities and ethnic cuisines, and then little Ricky the dragon, which is myself, I love ethnic food, and so you could go all over, the city. You can have Indian and Mexican and Thai, cuisines, and then they had poetry readings, and everyone, came from that source within. So that was I did an audio book on that, and
how nice.
Uh-huh.
So did you invent these characters?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, and some were taken from people I know, like one David the dragon is a real good friend of mine. He's been meditating for about 50 years. He's into acupuncture, real absolute genius. Got a great heart. So I invented David the dragon. So then I talked about how for humanity, we have like rivers and streams inside, and a lot of them are get blocked. And so when they get blocked, illness, will come, the disease will come. And so the Chinese discovered, certain patterns of how to use needles to touch on the body to release the dam.
Wow, that's very nice, Richard.
Uh-huh.
That's beautiful. That's a nice, and also it's a nice image that young people can associate with.
Uh-huh.
The dragon. It's interesting how the children are not afraid of dragons for some reason. I mean, here are these totally terrifying creatures, right?
Yeah.
And the only people who are scared of dragons are, bad guys. The bad guys are always terrified of the dragon.
Yeah.
And then the dragon is the one who always winds up protecting the good people.
Mm-hmm. And I gave them helpful hints for people to learn how to meditate. So these kids, you imagine these kids been meditating for a year, and they go back to the dragons, and they said, what do I do about this mind? My mind is constantly wandering, from one branch to another, and of course all the dragons laugh, because no one gets a free ride. The mind, we have to learn how it's our friend, not our enemy. So the dragons gave them tales, how to make your mind your friend. So
Good. Excellent idea.
uh-huh.
Great idea. Make your mind your friend. That's what I tell people when I'm in the Buddhist society. They say things to me because I'm a little bit older, different, sometimes wiser, who knows. And I just say, well, I'm a friend of Buddha. That's it. I'm not a Buddhist. I'm not becoming a Buddha. I'm not, none of this nonsense. But I am a friend of Buddha's, which I feel is true. And I'm a friend. I don't know him personally. I didn't hang out with him, 2,500 years ago or in other incarnations. But I have a good sense of who Buddha or what Buddha is, and I feel very friendly with that. And it's a good feeling. And then, and sometimes when people are being ridiculous, I say, well, with the monks, the monks go, oh, we can't do this and we can't do that. One of them was they can't have chocolate. Oh, we're not allowed to have chocolate. I have brought in about a ton of chocolate to the monastery. And I simply say, weekly I would bring chocolate, and at least twice a month I'd bring in bags of chocolate. They have nothing because they live like monks,
Uh-huh.
They have a cot and they have water and they have 2 meals a day, that kind of thing. Except they all had chocolate for about 3 years, and that was me bringing chocolate in, and the head monk would come up to me and say, well, we're not allowed chocolate. I said, well, I talked to Buddha. He's my friend, and he said, you guys are so good, you deserve some chocolate.
That's good.
They couldn't argue. They couldn't argue.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a good one. Oh gosh, I love that one. Hey, you don't mind? I'm going to tell that story. I love that one. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Well, we've legitimized chocolate for Buddhist monks.
Okay? Yeah.
You do your work. You practice. You do your practice, and chocolate is just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I graduated to the 80, 90, and 100% chocolates. But one poor female monk that I was very fond of, in a very healthy but very devoted way.
Mm-hmm.
She liked, she barely spoke English, but I found out that one of the things she likes was Kit Kats. And so, it didn't take me long to figure out that on certain days you could get 2 bags of Kit Kats for the price of one at CVS or something. So every so often I would show up with way too much Kit Kats, and I would leave them on her desk, and and she would have to distribute them. So if you walk through the monastery, there would be Kit Kats everywhere. Everywhere.
Oh gosh. Oh wow.
Yeah. So I think we do have a role to play, Richard, and you and I are very lucky because we were blessed to have our responsibilities in those days. And I think both of us learned that there was nothing that we couldn't do, and that our devotion was sincere, and that's really all you need. All the great teachings say, and you know this, in the end you need the guru to cross the great ocean, the great water. In the end you need the guru, because the ocean is too vast. The ocean between samsara and reality, or nirvana, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. But between here and there, or between here and here, that last millionth of an inch, gazillion light years, you need the devotion to cross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been. I think I've written 25 books in the last four years. Everything.
Oh, really?
I wrote a book on Gaia.
Yeah.
Because of my meditation, I got a whole series of 12 different messages from Gaia. I wrote
Oh,
one
nice.
on happiness. I wrote one on practical meditation where people can use in the everyday life. I did
Oh, good. You're crazier than I am. This is
yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
I did conscious politics. For me, politics should stem from a state of compassion, happiness, love, patience. Granted, we don't have that, but the closest right now we do is from that the Prime Minister of New Zealand. I listened to her talk once. She says,
Yeah, she's pretty
politics.
nice.
Yeah, and she's phenomenal. And she's says that kindness has to enter into politics. We teach our children to be kind, but politics, our politicians are taught, to fight one another. And she says, basically, she's now going to have in New Zealand a state of kindness. So she's doing phenomenal things, and I think that's just one step, in
That's a pretty big.
for change.
That's wonderful.
Then I wrote a book on the laws of the universe. In that, I talk about, there is a law of health, a law of prayer, devotion, law of meditation, law of concentration, a law of kindness, patience, tolerance. All those, and they're not laws per se, but they're. It's like when we meditate and go inside, there's actually compassion is a frequency, it is an energy, and we can learn, how to take a shower every day, just like we take a shower, every day to clean our body. We can take a shower of compassion, and so then over time, we then become my theory is the more you pay attention to something, the more that he pays attention to you, right? Inside. Oh, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yep. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Apple obviously puts the mute button right next to, all the other buttons. So if you pick up your phone because your hand is cramping, you hit the mute button. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. Yeah.
Okay. So are you working on any books right now?
Yeah, right now I am working with my brother's business partner has been involved in quantum physics and meditation for about 50 years. So I'm working on a book called The Physics of Spirituality. And so basically, I have also been interested in the quantum field for, I guess, about a good 10 years now. And what I think, and the more I envision that light, that we see inside, I'm beginning to think and understand that's the quantum field. Imagine the quantum field is a field that's beyond time and space, beyond all dimensions, the seen and the unseen. It exists everywhere. It's been, it's beyond, it's infinite. So then, in the beginning, when I meditated, I thought I was seeing the heavenly realms, and now I'm beginning to see that's the quantum field. In the heavenly realms, there's probably thousands of dimensions inside of that, and the quantum field is part of that. So I'm writing a book, to kind of bridge together, science.
You're just going to piss off a lot of scientists. I'm just kidding you, but you will. That's good.
Yeah, well, I already had a talk with a good scientific friend of mine who's a physicist. But there are people. Have you ever heard of David Bohm? David.
Yeah.
Bohm, yeah. Just think in the 50s, David Bohm's wife Anne was reading this book by Krishnamurti, And in that book, they talk about the observer and the observed. And
Yes.
then, Anne said to her husband, "Hey, David, just think, this guy's doing the same thing that you are. You're looking external, and he's looking internally." So that kind of piped, David's interest. He thought
Yeah.
outside the box. So anyway,
Okay.
that started a 25-year, dialogue
Wow.
between them. So, so I have some physicist friends here of mine in Kansas, and so I thought, okay, well, I'll introduce them to the video and see if if they're interested in all. And yeah, I had one talk between the mystic and the scientist. I was just, and he was a scientist, but he could not believe that you could actually see light inside. And that was, he said that was literally impossible.
That's bullshit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean about the knowledge.
yeah,
I could go to my Buddhist friends, Christian friends. Almost no one has ever seen light. Here they say, "Oh yes, there's metaphysically there's light." I said, metaphysically. No, light, light, light. You see light inside your brain, inside your head, and they don't get it. So and then because basically what we were told, unless you had the Sat Guru, and now God knows how many Sat Gurus there are, but we were told that there was one Sat Guru and he had the ability to do the transfer. So are you familiar with the Thich Nhat Hanh books?
oh yeah, definitely, yeah. Yep. Uh-huh.
So, Richard, don't worry. I'm not going to ask you to do this, at least not today. But those books, like you, I'm involved with this all the time because you and I are made up of this stuff for whatever reason. You and I are made up of this stuff. We're brothers. We're soul brothers, okay? How? I don't know, but it's true, okay? And, if I have a half a dozen whole soul brothers on this planet, you're one of them, okay? So, so anyhow, and also I spent about 30 years in the publishing and electronic publishing business. I mean, directly. Okay, so I know a little bit about publishing. That's putting it mildly. In any case, so I would go to stores and I would ask people, well, what's selling? I know various people own bookstores, and and I talked to them because I was also interested in the transfer or the transformation of the print industry into the electronic industry, which we know is taking over, not a little bit, but like completely, which I think is dangerous because if the computers ever come down, it's over, and they will come down. They will come down. Libraries always come down. Okay, that's the nature of a library. The nature of a library is it gets burned.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So for time eternal. Okay, so anyhow, I noticed the Thich Nhat Hanh books, and then I said to the guy, "So how are these selling?" And they were done very cleverly. If you notice, they were about $5 each, and instead of having one book for $100, which was the 10 chapters of the great Thich Nhat Hanh. Okay, there was one called Compassion, one called Hope, one called whatever. And, it was a fairly intelligent way of doing things with the Buddhist point of view, and it was not counter-Christian, which is why Buddhism is winning so nicely, because the Jews and the Christians are accepting Buddhism as an extra wheel, spare tire. And but I think what he was trying to do and is doing could be done much, much better. because I don't think those books have enough science and fact in them. And they also are using what I call hallmark language. And if you're in the Midwest, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. You know, there's nothing wrong with Hallmark, and it's just as bad as Yale. When Fred and I went around the country, the East Coast, one of our first stops was in New Haven, and I took on all the Buddhist graduate students single-handedly and survived somehow. But, you know, so there's a story to be told, and it needs to be retold in modern vernacular. When Jesus spoke, and then later when Paul was speaking, Paul obviously was speaking in Greek, and the language he used, like Jesus, was the language of the day, which was called koine, which means street language. So they didn't go around saying thus and this and thee and thy and thou and all this horse shit that we've inherited that we still use today, especially if you walk into, God help us, like I was born a Catholic, okay? You walk into this circus of nonsense, okay? So how do you speak in today's language and adhere to the truth and adhere and work with what's powerful in science? And, you know, if I were to have a discussion with a scientist, the scientist and I would have a huge disagreement about what the meaning and purpose of science is, because they would tell me that science has to do with measurement and repeatability. And I think those two things are, you know, incidental to science, what real science is. You know, if you talk about, you know, experiencing and observing the moving reality, I doubt it repeats much, and I doubt it's very measurable. They still haven't been able to create an accurate solar or universe calendar. Everything is slightly out of sync because of gravitational pulls and the tilt of the planet, and you know, and the days are longer. Look up Washington's birthday if you want a good laugh. Look up Washington's birthday.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay? And you let me know when Washington's birthday was. I want to know what day George Washington, you know, a significant character. I want to know what day he was born on. I'll give you a hint. They don't know.
Okay. Oh my God. Oh wow.
They don't know, and not because they don't know what day he was born on. They know exactly what day he was born on, if you could link it to other events, but they don't know what day of the year it was on a calendar. They don't know.
Oh wow. Wow.
Wow. So what I'm saying about science is it's great, and now that we have quantum science, which sort of is like, let's add a little reality into our science, you know. Let's let it be fluid so it doesn't have to be static. You know, we can move on, you know, past Plato and Newton and get to you know, where Einstein and others were pointing. You know, so here we are, we've got a science, and we're going to need our intuitive minds, our spiritual minds to get there. So what Thich Nhat Hanh is missing, just to let you know, I haven't lost the thread of the thought here, is that his things are beautiful sentiments, and they're very helpful, but they're like Hallmark cards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we need Hallmark cards like a hole in the head these days. And I have nothing against Hallmark, except, you know, if you really don't have the time and energy to write somebody a real letter, yes, send them a Hallmark card. But, you know, if you really love somebody, sit down, think up some words out of your own experience, and send them to somebody you love, and they will know, and they will never forget. So I have nothing against Thich Nhat Hanh. I think, you know, he and the Dalai Lama are like, you know, they're like some kind of glue that are keeping the world together.
Mm-hmm.
But what I miss, you know, Tibetan is way too, I mean, there are, I've forgotten whether there are 108 or 112 or 114 levels, and there are 148 or 184 states of mind that are all documented by the Tibetans. I mean, literally every state and shade of feeling and meaning is all documented by the, God bless them, the Tibetans. Okay, that's one extreme. And on the other extreme, you have the Zen Buddhists, where there's neither one nor zero. There's just, you know, there's just blank, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so what I'm saying is, I wanted to put together a book. Originally, it was going to be called Daily Bread, Daily Mind. Okay, so you know where that was going.
Yeah, yeah.
Daily Bread was addressing sort of, you know, our spiritual nature and our gratitude and so on and so forth. And Daily Mind was a little bit more like the Christian, not the Zen thing of, you know, having your mind, or, you know, emptying your mind or meditating. And then I realized that was too much for a single, and that Thich Nhat Hanh did something very clever where he didn't try to make a magnus opus. He didn't try to do a one size fits all book of religion. You know, here are the 10 precepts or the 108 mudras. You know, he's just did, here's hope, here's love, here's now. And I think it might be fun to do it again. And the books should be really cheap. They should be more like comic books. You know, you should be able to pick them up for $1 or $2, and the graphics should be out of this freaking world, and the language should be so potent that, you know, they would be something that people would want to not just buy and use it as a coffee table item, but, you know, it's like, wow, have you seen this thing yet? You know, have you seen this thing yet? And what I like about what you did is your story about the dragons is, to me, that's amazing, because you see the kids don't give a shit about hope and love and faith and joy. I mean, fuck that. It's all bullshit. It's abstract, and it doesn't have any intrinsic meaning to day-to-day reality. Now, a story like yours is not quite reality, but it knows that. That's the value of a story.
Mm-hmm.
You better be recording this so you can play this back.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Okay. The value of a story is that it is not reality. It points to reality, and it knows the difference. And in the history of mankind, the story is how it's been transmitted forever. The part of it has been written down. There's not even a heartbeat of our history. The written, you know, all of the Vedas. I don't know if you know who wrote all the Vedas. It's an interesting story who wrote the Vedas. Vyasa. Then you have to find out who he was. You're going to die when you find out. In any case, that's a blink in the eye of Vishnu. Okay, just not even. Okay, it's just a blink. So all of written history, all that is just a blink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
But a story, you know, if you're talking about the Ramayana or you're talking about the Shiva Sutras, it almost doesn't matter, because the stories, I want you to do me a favor, look up the story of the Gayatri mantra.
I
Gyatra.
know what you're talking about. That's the one Prem Deval sings, right? Every morning.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the
So
most.
the,
Okay, go ahead.
okay. So in any case, the story behind that, which is on YouTube somewhere, get the one story that's told by an Indian professor, not by, by a man from a Brahmin family, because he actually goes in depth, and he's not doing sort of the white man's version of the Gayatri mantra. He's doing, the Hindu long tail version of it, the dragon version. Okay. And what happens is, by the time you're at the end of the story, your mind has been totally transformed by the story. And there's no formula that you could write that could express the journey, the multidimensional journey that this story took you through, which is how the Hindus are quite expert at storytelling, which the West has not yet caught up with, in which the Greeks imitated. But, they use stories for transference of wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And we need it more now. And we need it written for younger people. And we need to use all the power of technology and popular culture all together. We need that all together, I think. Because to make it esoteric, I went to a Zen temple here. I'm almost done. I went to a Zen temple here, Richard, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And I said, hi, I'm visiting. I go to the Lawn Dharma Center over here, and if it's okay, I'd like to come and visit you at your Zen center. And they said, yes, come and visit us. We'd be happy to have you. And they invited me to dinner, and the head lama, or whatever he was called, sensei, sat at the table, and he was very kind and invited me to sit next to him. And everybody had their places and everything else. It was a beautiful service and satsang thing beforehand. And then the service, which was totally by the book, Zen Buddhist ceremony. And what drove me crazy is the center group of people had every Zen knickknack and out. I mean, they're perfectly in Zen garb, Zen robes, Zen stools, Zen candles, Zen carpets, Zen this, Zen that. The meal was Zen, Zen, Zen. Everything was Zen, Zen, Zen. Oh my God. The whole thing was so Zen. I could hardly, I'm a Zen freak, and I couldn't take it anymore. Yeah. And so I said to him, I didn't realize what I was doing at this time. I said, could you clarify something for me, Sensei? He said, sure. I said, what is the meaning of the Bodhidharma coming from the West? And I'm sure you know that's a very popular Zen koan, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure he must have known it was a popular Zen koan. And I've forgotten what his response was. But what I realized is he didn't get that I was asking, so what have you discovered about the truth anyhow? I mean, you're ahead of this place. It's magnificent. You've got everything. You've got wonderful people. You've got great teachings. I mean, there's nothing lacking here. So what have you learned about the truth? And I forgot how he answered the question, but he sure as heck didn't answer the question. He was busy maintaining the Zen veneer. And the last thing you need in learning how to love and deal with reality in the universe is a veneer. The universe has a skin called reality, and then there's this infinite magic that's taking place inside of it, which you need to feel at home with, which few of us feel at home with. Most of us are terrified most of the time. And what I love about the Hindu stories, especially the one about the Gayatri mantra, is you get taken on a journey, and by the time you come back to where you began, and you're exactly back to where you began, so you're totally comfortable that you made a round trip, you've been someplace that is completely indescribable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you ever want to work on something, I don't know what it is, but something in a very contemporary language and context, I would be glad to contribute in whatever way that I could.
Yeah, well, why don't I send you? I have a document that has everything that I've done, and
Send it to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send it to you, and then in that I have links. So on my brother's side, I do like an audio. So my twin brother does all the background music, and I do the words. So.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. So, and we're basically, to be honest, we're doing this because of the love of it. We're not into it for the money. I realize that I love to go from the depths within, sink into that well, and incredible wisdom comes out. So for me, this is my learning tool to learn more about myself.
I hear you. I hear you. So your audience is, who do you think your audience is?
Right now, my audience is a Facebook. I'm putting in I'm slowly. I have about 18, CDs of poems that I'm putting on Facebook. I'm putting. I'm now going to go through all my books. So eventually, everything I'm doing, I'm going to post in YouTube. Right now, most of it is on my brother's website. And so every day and Facebook, I post something, that I've done. So I have friends, and I see this transformation in America. It's slowly happened. Years ago, when I came back from India, no one would listen to a word I said.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah. So now, 40, 50, almost 50 years later, a lot
it's
of
normal.
Exactly. I have friends who are staunch Trump's supporters who love my stuff because I am not a threatening basically
you're apolitical.
Yeah most of the time. Sometimes I when I see something that is so as you say about slavery, I have to speak up at times. I'm a human being, and I think that we should treat each other with the utmost respect. We don't need to be anyway. I don't want to get into politics, but our country should not be divided. We should be one country.
Right. That would be nice.
You and we're the same wavelength on that. So. But yeah, I didn't know you were in the book industry for a period of time.
Well, it was all. I went and lectured to the International Publishers Association, which is basically, at the time, was all the publishers from around the world showed up in Boston, and I got invited to show them publishing on a PC. Now this was in 1980-ish, okay? I was the last person they wanted to see. Why? I showed up with a $1,000 Atari with a $200 dot matrix printer, and I was combining text and graphics and printing them out instantaneously. These guys were operating III machines that were millions of dollars each. In other words, their jobs and their salaries were all dependent on the heavy industry of ancient printing, okay? That industry still exists a little bit for, documentation and, military manuals and stuff like that. I mean, there are places that still need to print out 500-page books, and there's still a lot of paper printing going on. But in those days, it was paper printing, and they had just adapted to digital font. They just moved, they were just beginning to move off of analog font sets that you would load in photographically to digital fonts, aka Adobe. Okay, and so they were realizing that you didn't have to buy fonts from somebody. You get digital fonts and license them for a fraction of the cost, and you could then begin to compose things. They had, composers, but they didn't have anything like Word, where you could, import documents, reformat them, hit a button and print them out, hit another button and have them sent to some super printer that could print out 500 copies. They didn't have anything. So when they saw me, they just, they wanted me just to disappear and go away. And then the same thing happened with the business publishers, because they were in the business of making full color magazines for industry. And I was saying, hey, you don't need brochures anymore, for crying out loud. First of all, the minute you print them, they're out of date. The pricing is wrong. The product is different. Everything has changed. And it's heck to maintain. You can maintain a website, change it whenever you want to, and everybody is instantly updated. That concept was not recognized at all. That, that you could actually change a central document and everybody in the world suddenly had access to the same and up-to-date information. There's still some companies who aren't taking advantage of that, but generally it's in place.
So you're probably on the same wavelength I was. I was in 1986. I created one of the very virtual real estate databases. So you can put a house, I've been a software engineer for 35 plus years. So I wrote a program where, let's say I want to buy a house in New York City, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. And at that time, it would go and show you all the houses that match that criteria. You take you like a house, you click on that house, and then it would take you on a tour of the house. I won awards at trade shows in California, but at that time, the real estate industry says, why do you want to do that? It says, we take all our clients in a car. It said, mind you, this is to not waste your time nor your client's time. I said,
I know the real estate application very well.
Okay,
so
yeah. So this was, mind you, in 1986. And I told them point blank, in probably around 15 years, everyone, including your grandmother, will be using a system like this. And today, everyone,
is. Everybody is. And
Yeah.
I did the same. I was doing not what you were doing. You were doing also the database. I went around telling everybody my expertise was adding video. I had a company called Video Site and another one called Video Facts. And we did video, and we went to the real estate industry. And we had to do free demos for I don't know how many real estate companies to show them that you could have a videographer, AKA now someone with an iPhone, and you could just walk through the house, preferably with some kind of steady cam, and shoot the thing, and it would be online, and you could get a walkthrough, or So anyhow, they resisted it for the same reasons that you mentioned, until of course the smart people realized the people who were selling only showed maximum 3 houses, maximum. So
Wow.
if somebody walked in, they would say, okay. And not only that, they would get pre-approval of the loan. The guy would say, I want to spend 800,000, 700, whatever the number is, on a house.
Yeah.
They would go to the bank. They would get the loan approved. At that point, only at that point would the real estate agent take them to see houses. And at that point, he would take them to 3 houses, period. Period.
Wow.
That's it.
Yeah.
And he
Wow.
said, I'm going to show you 3 houses, and they're all hot on the market. So you pick which one you want. And because the loan was approved, they could close the same day. And this was in Tennessee, and it was the top real estate company in Tennessee that I met through people that I got to know, and they were very smart. And then we talked about putting video on it, and they got all fucked up about sorry about my language, about adding the video to it, because they said, oh well, we can't afford $200, which is sort of what videographers were asking for to shoot a house in those days. Now it'd be embarrassing to ask somebody to charge for going in with their iPhone. And so anyhow, yes, the world has changed. I went to Disney Disney said, the head of Disney said, we will never make a digital film.
Oh, wow.
I talked to ABC. We will never put our news on the internet. I went to CBS. We will never do video on the internet.
Oh,
I taught them how. Okay. So I've sort of been upfront, and again, because of who you and I are and where we come from, wherever the heck that is, we know that anything is possible. And in case anybody doubted, obviously Steve Jobs drank more water from the well than we did. Because,
yeah, right. Yeah.
He totally went overboard. So anyhow, I think I'm agreeing with you that there's a message that needs to get out there. I am particularly concerned about young people because I don't see them getting the nourishment that they need.
Well, maybe you and I can concentrate on doing a whole series of books towards the young, and have them in a conventional story way, or make it, for me, education should be fun. Learning should be fun. When you read story, it should be a fascinating. You don't want to put the book down. A book is good when you don't want to put it down, right?
When you can't put it down, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't get to the fucking bathroom because.
Yeah.
So first of all, I apologize about my language. As I relax, my language slips right off.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes the monks go, language.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, I guess I have to be conscious about what I'm saying, huh? So there are 2 things that I want to mention exactly on topic, okay? One is, if you've looked at the renderings of stories about the Ramayana, okay, aka the story of Lord Ram and Sita, okay?
Yeah.
They are the worst on the internet, the worst animations, the worst storytelling. I mean, just impossible. And when they bring in live actors, even worse. So I'm going to step up from the worst. We're talking about the Ramayana, okay? We're talking about the epic of epics, okay?
Right.
And which I bought in Rishikesh for 25 cents for a 500 page color book for 25 cents in Rishikesh, okay? And took home and read 2 or 3 times, and didn't understand what it was. And anyhow, then, okay, to my Buddhist training, which is more current and maybe more advanced than my Hindu training, I don't know. They kind of overlap more than a little bit. But the Buddhist stories are called what's it called? I can't remember. It was Cicada, the Cicada tales. You know them?
Is that?
J.
I've heard of it, but I don't know what the actual definition is.
Okay, you have to look.
Okay.
I believe it's Jakata. Okay.
Okay.
I learned this from the same monk that is guiding me these days, and I mean I feel so superior to him because of the knowledge I received from Sadhguru and my experience in India, and and yet he is, because he practices. Okay, he practices. He's way far. I would follow him anywhere, because when it comes time to go to nirvana, the door will be wide open and he won't know enough to walk in. So God himself will have to come out and pull him in. So he told me about the Chicadic tales. You have to read them. And again, here are these amazing stories, and they are done so poorly. These are a thousand years old at least. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And they're beautiful morality tales, okay? And they're also filled with wisdom, and they're also aimed for the young of heart. But the animations, if you look them up on the internet and you play the YouTubes of these things, you'll be embarrassed to watch them. And they're so terribly done. And what you and I should do is raise necessary funds and have them redone. And they could be still images, they could be animated, it doesn't matter. But the language is completely and utterly out of date and wrong. Basically, the story gets missed in the process. First of all, there's several versions depending on where you get your story from.
Mm-hmm.
They're different versions from, southern India to northern India to China. They're always different renditions of the same story. But again, the language itself is like, trying to read Jesus in English from German, from Latin, from Greek, from whatever they spoke, Armenian. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how far away it is.
So you know what? So we're on the same wavelength. What I should probably do, I'll send you, just a link, a document that contains everything that I've done. It's a lot, mind you, but you can real quickly, probably in a period of 10 minutes, see where I'm coming from, and if you feel, that we're in alignment, I'm more than willing to do research on how to present these tales in a tasteful manner. I would love to do something like that.
Okay, I wouldn't even bring this up, except once before in this lifetime, you and I have achieved the impossible. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I enough and have enough background and care enough that we could even have this discussion. And then the fact that you and I have already accomplished something that was not accomplishable with joy and et cetera, et cetera. So anyhow, I will follow your link and we will see what happens. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Yeah.
So look up the Cicada tales, Jakata, Cicada.
Yeah. I wrote that down. Yeah.
Okay. And then the language of the day is Coine, Koine, sometimes with a K.
Oh, I've heard that. C-O-N-I-K. Is it C-O-N?
Coine.
Oh.
E.
Oh.
The word coin comes from koine.
Okay.
It's the exchange. It's the token of exchange. The coin comes from the token of exchange. So the language of the street was koine, because it was how people talked in exchange, was using the language of the day.
Okay.
They didn't use shells or diamonds or gold bricks. You know, they spoke in words, you know, and they didn't talk in Sanskrit or some kind of uptight Greek or something like that. I mean, St. Paul was trying to tell the truth, talk about Jesus and what he said. He wanted to talk directly to the people, right?
Yeah. So one more time. You know, I'm a little bit dyslexia. So it's how do I spell it again?
Like coin, C-O-I-N, and then you stick it, and then you put an E on the end of it.
Okay.
Like a dime is a coin. And
Okay.
then put an E on the end of it.
Okay. Oh, cool. Okay. Yep.
Okay, and that will give you the flavor of. You and I have done a lot of studying, and you probably know what Sanskrit roots are and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you and I started with Sanskrit roots, which are very informative, we would lose everybody along the way, right?
Exactly.
You know, nobody really wants to know what Om means or where it comes from. Nobody really gives a damn, okay?
Right.
And OM has nothing to do with AUM except they sound alike, okay?
Correct.
But nobody cares, okay? It's like Robert Thurman. He knows more about Buddhism than anybody else, but he knows too much. So how do you distill down that? You know, what I love is watching the Dalai Lama, and he sits there and he laughs. I mean, what else do you what else what else do you need to know, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, listen, my friend, I hope I've fulfilled my mission to you. Okay.
Oh, you have. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that we've reconnected after these years. This has been absolutely incredible.
Well, I am proud to know you. I am delighted to know what you have done, and I hope I have some involvement in things that could be done in the future. Okay.
Okay. All right, Guy. Well, love to you and your family. Yeah.
Okay. God bless you.
God bless you too. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks.